Hello, everyone. Hello, how are you doing today? This is another episode of Naturalist Elf. If you notice, I'm here out of the regular studio today. I'm not in some elaborate place. I'm out of the old gym studio today. But thank you for tuning in to this show of Naturalist Elf that we air every Tuesday at 6 p.m. on All Things Relevant Media. All Things Relevant Media. If you're just hearing this or looking at this from someone else's page right now, go to All Things Relevant Media on Facebook right now. Hit like and share with other people and follow us. But also, you can go to YouTube and you can go to All Things Black Media, All Things Relevant Black Media, and also hit like and share there as well, and follow that page as well, where you can get all the updated shows that we have, even the shows that we've done previous. You can go in and look at those shows and enhance yourself in all aspects of life, all things that are relevant. Our show, Naturalist Elf, is going to help you with the health side. If you're looking for all things health in the naturalist way, that's why they call it Naturalist Elf. There is no superstition to it. There's no take this and you'll get this or anything like that. No, it's all about removing the cause, identifying cause and removing the cause and taking it out of your life, and then you'll feel 100% better, people. So that's what you want to get to, where you're not having to depend on drugs, therapy, and other people treatments, and you can identify health in yourself and in your family. Think about it, when you no longer a liability to your family. Because think about it, you get sick, somebody got to take care of you, right? You become a liability to your sister, your brother, your children. They have to take care of you. They got to carry you to the doctor. They got to wheel you around. They got to pull you over and wipe your tail and all type of other different things. When these things that you can do, provided you ain't overindulge in toxic lifestyle habits that break and wear your body down. So you want to keep your body good and healthy, where you don't become a liability to those around you, because that causes stress on their life. Your child can't go to college now because they got to sit there and change a diaper. Your children can't go to work or anything like that because they got to sit there and stop you from walking in the street because you're out of your mind. So all these different things can be avoided if you maintain proper health in yourself. And this is how we have to look at disease, and this is how we have to look at health. Don't look at it as like, I can eat what I want to eat, I can drink what I want to drink. It doesn't just affect you. Your lifestyle habits and your environment also affect others as well. Because if you're sitting in there smoking in the house with your children, it's affecting their lung. If you got air wicks and candles because you're talking about you want it to smell good and you burning out demons and all type of stuff like that, you're actually causing air pollution in all those who are in your house. You're driving out demons, all right. You're gonna drive us out. You know what I'm saying? You're poisoning us out of the house. You're using all these Cloroxes, air for what you call it, pine saws and different things of that nature, and so-called disinfecting the house. You're going to remove everybody out of the house when you keep doing that. Now, it doesn't kill you outright. That's the thing about some poison. That's why people don't see it as threatening, because it don't kill them outright. They don't just die outright from using these poisons. So they don't see the poison as damage. People don't die from the first cigarette. People don't die from the first alcoholic drink. People don't die from the first indulgence of cooked food, or the bag of potato chips, or the cookies, or ice cream, or any of the other so-called unnatural, unhealthy food. But it's the accumulation over a period of time, the ongoing habit of eating those things, the habit of drinking those things, the habit of using those things, that wear down the human constitution. The human body is endowed with a lot of energy and endowed with strong health principles. But if there's a toxic poison that keep being introduced to the body, it will itch at the body's health until it wears it down into a weakness. And that weakness we see in disease. We see in acute disease. We see in chronic disease. Now, acute disease is on a shock, springing up issue. You start coughing out of the blue. You start sneezing out of the blue. You start having diarrhea out of the blue. You start having eruptions erupt from your body out of the blue. Now, that's an acute disease where the body that's sharp, brought on real sharp, real quick to free the body of waste. Now, chronic disease is one that is long-standing, that the body doesn't have enough energy to throw it all out at once. It can't do the house cleaning all at once, and it's too much in there to try to keep up with doing so. So it's more of a chronic issue. It lasts a long period of time. You take out a little bit of trash. You don't take out all the trash at one time like you do in an acute disease. You start taking out a little bit of trash out that you see in a chronic disease. It's a chronic issue. It's a long-standing issue. You're going to be cleaning up for the next couple of months, and stuff like that. So that's what the chronic disease is. But that's not what we're talking about today. Our topics today were adrenaline junkies, and stimulation requires more stimulation. The dopamine depletion. We're going to talk about stimulation is irritation, and disease from overstimulation, and how to maintain emotional poise. Now, this is what a lot of our diseases result from as well. See, disease is not just from one thing. Had it been just from what we eat, we probably would never get disease. But it's because of what we eat, what we drink, what we breathe, what we think, the stress levels, the lack of exercise. It's a multiplicity of things that are combined together. Had there been just one sin, we might can keep on going. But we have a multitude of sins, that are breaking and wearing our body down. I mean, we got ants biting at us, we got spiders biting at us, we got lizards biting at us, we got all type of insects warring at this flesh, because I'm just saying that those are parasites that's coming to eat us away of our house and home because of our toxic accumulation. But adrenaline junkies, what are adrenaline junkies? Our lifestyle is pretty much we are adrenaline seekers. We're looking for the rush. We're looking for a high, in other words. Now, a lot of us, we get that from, if we're not getting it from, marijuana, cocaine, alcohol, or other, drugs, or you'll say poisons that stimulate activity in our body, or stimulate activity in our minds, stimulate activity in our limbs and stuff like that. So any type of drug is a stimulant, and pretty much to say it's going to stimulate activity. Some may depress activity, but there's going to be some stimulation somewhere. It's going to stimulate another area where it's going to cause a drop in stimulation in one area. If you got a lot of activity going on in your brain because of damage, and you take something that damages your hand, your body is going to send blood from here to here. So it's less action going to be here, more action here. So there's a depression here, and there's a uptake here. All right. So that's how medicine works. If I have a problem in this area, I cause an issue over here, and the body have to redirect this energy from here to here. So this stops while this is being taken care of. But once this is taken care of, the body goes right back over here to its initial work of fixing something that is damaged there. So adrenaline junkies is what we see in taking all type of different poisons and in any manner, and not just poisons. We have those who don't even take poisons, or don't even, when I say poisons, I'm talking about, your drugs, your recreational or medicinal or herbal, your tonics, such as liquors and teas and coffees and different things of that nature. But there are some that are not chemical adrenaline junkies, chemical dependent adrenaline junkies. We also have junkies who are in relationship. They love to be in multiple relationships. Who sex junkies, get a high from over consumption of sex. You got some who sit in front of the television, and adrenaline junkies from television, watching shows that are emotionally, jumping from one thing to another. And we're going to break that down in just a little bit. But you have all type of adrenaline junkies, people who are on Facebook looking for something to cause their heart to race, give them a spike. They're looking for the next spicy post. They're looking for the next spicy TikTok. They're looking for something, they're trolling the mayor page to find out the next thing that they can lash out at him about. Or knowing that he about to say something retarded, or say something that's just not ideal, and they ready to lash out. It's a rush. It's a rush and attacking those people, even though it might be a good thing to attack them because you're speaking truth and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're getting a rush from it. You're releasing adrenaline, and you get addicted to doing it. So now you not only looking at his page, when it pop up, you're actually trolling his page, or her page. But also you're addicted to Netflix. You're addicted to Hulu because you're looking for the high that you get from the emotional roller coaster that you get from these shows. These shows have you having feelings of sadness. That's a low. That take you to a low feeling, and then it takes you to a high feeling of rejoicing that this person found his lost mother, or this person found love, or he came out from being broke to being rich and on top of things. So you go from the lowest low. That's what most of these shows. That's how you know it's a really good show. It just take you to the lowest low, and then catapult you up to a high, so high that you have this rush this dopamine release in your brain. Um, and this constant release of dopamine over a period of time will eventually carry you into a state of depletion, because you're going to constantly need more dopamine release, more adrenaline rushes to get that same high. You know, the first time you rode a roller coaster, it was exciting. You were like, "Ah, I want to go faster. Ah, I want to go faster. Ah, I'm going faster." And like, oh man, that was just amazing to be on the Gabatron, to be on the Mind Bender, you know, to be on the Mind Buster, Mind Train, whatever, you know, the so-called ride of the time is, that is just so exhilarating, you know. But after you ride it a couple of times, that's why most parks have to keep upgrading their rides, because you eventually get tired of it, because there's no more thrill to it. There's no more thrill, you know. Even though it's the same velocity, it's the same motions that should produce the same adrenaline. It's just that your body has now become less acceptable to that stimulation. It need more. It's like tolerating that stimulation now, so it need more of it. It need something bigger and badder, you know. So they build a bigger roller coaster. It's higher now, you know, and then you have a bigger fall, and you're like, ah, that's what I'm talking about. Oh God, you know, I felt my heart come out my chest, you know. And then you ride that 10, 15 times till, hey, it's like you can do it eating the sandwich now. You can do it while talking on the phone. Yeah, man, I'm riding this roller coaster. It's boring. But just 10 rides ago, it was, oh, my heart is coming out of my chest, you know. So now you want to go and ride the next thing around the corner that's even bigger, you know, that got an even bigger drop. And when you start riding that, oh God, the thrill has come back, you know. So we're always seeking the next best thing to give us that rush, that dopamine release. That dopamine release is where we're getting our pleasure from. We're getting this pleasure, you know. We always seeking pleasure. So we eventually wear out our pleasure centers. This is where the dopamine depletion comes in. We wear it out, where it's no longer able to give us that high anymore, and we're steady trying to constantly doing things that are really toxic in our life to try to put ourselves in an adrenaline state. You know, some people jump off of rocks into rivers just to get that high. You know, they put themselves in death-defying situations just to have that adrenaline rush, like, you know, they're cheating death. You know, so eventually over time, we put ourselves in situations where we no longer can have that sensation, and that is a terrible situation to be in. But that dopamine depletion is when we're no longer able to have pleasure in life. You know, everything is kind of dull and listless, all because we overindulge in this over a period of time. Now, and we're going to talk about later on, just before we finish, some of the diseases that results in this dopamine um, overstimulation that causes a depletion of that dopamine. Just to give you an example of one, you have problems of, it can cause damage in certain areas in your deep limbic system, where you have the inability to love. You just don't have that. You don't get no pleasure out of loving nothing. Like there's no pleasure in anything, so you just have no love for anything. You know, you don't love doing this because you get no reward from it. You get no pleasure from it. It's no dopamine release in it. Sex, you overindulge in it. It's become a point where there's just there's no, no pleasure to it anymore, because there's no dopamine being released when you're having the so-called, uh, sexual experience. You didn't have it too many times, too many people, too often. You know, you just over stimulated yourself. But this stimulation is a form of irritation. That's what we don't realize as well. You know, the stimulation that we get from always being in a fight or flight response, or releasing dopamine, the stimulation causes irritation in our body. You know, if you stimulation is irritation. You know how some people say you smoke marijuana is stimulating your mind. It's stimulating my mind, Craig. Let's stimulate my mind, Craig. Well, stimulation is another term for irritation. I got to irritate something to stimulate it. You know, how you stimulate a mule? You chop them across the back. How you stimulate a horse? You strike them across the back. That's irritating them. That's not, you're not rubbing them saying, let's go, baby. No, you whip them. I mean, you gorge at them. So when you lash at these organs and tissues and tell them, because most times when your body is not properly functioning, it's doing so because it's fatigued. If the mind is not allowing you to think and do things, you know how some people say they take something that stimulate them to think more. It stimulate them to write more. It stimulate them to talk more, you know, give them courage and all this type of stuff. But the reason why you don't have that is because there's a fatigue in that organ. That organ is fatigued, is stressed, is functioning at a low level. So when you irritate it, you cause more blood to come to that area. Now, more blood to that area is going to get more function. So if there's no blood in the area, it's less functioning. Like if you don't have blood in your stomach, okay, anytime you eat, blood have to come to that stomach to help give function into your stomach to digest the food. So that's why blood comes from everywhere else in your body, and all the blood is circulated around the stomach to digest your food. All right. So only functioning happens when there's blood present. If no blood is present to an organ or tissue or area, there's no activity going to go on. You're going to have more activity in the brain when there's excessive blood flow in that area. If there's no blood flow, there's going to be less action in the brain. So if we're constantly irritating with poisons, you know, poisons get into our body, we smoke, and that irritation goes in and start irritating the body to release dopamine. That's going to be a stimulant. It's going to be irritating to produce more. It's irritating it to produce more. It's stimulating it to produce more. All right. So this overproduction eventually causes a breakdown, a depletion of dopamine release. It also causes damage to the organ that's being lashed and constantly whipped into action. That's just like with laxatives. When you take laxative to create a diarrhea, you're constipated and you use laxative to create a diarrhea. Now that's a irritant. It irritates the colon to release its contents. So it's not that the laxative is irritating. All right. The laxative is so irritating that the body is threatened by this poison, and what it does is release this poison real rapidly. Now, all the contents that is in the colon is going to be released also. So that's the irritation going on. All right. So now over time, that irritation is going to cause the colon to harden, and it's going to require not only but one laxative to cause that same irritation or, you know, that movement. It's going to have you're going to have to use 2 laxatives in a couple of weeks. All right. Then you're going to have to lose 3 a couple of months after that. Then you're going to need 4. Then you're going to need 5. Then you're going to need 6 until that laxative is no longer going to the body is not going to respond to that laxative. You're going to have to use a whole nother poison or another irritant. All right. Yes, ma'am. I'll definitely give you a call. But you have to use a whole different irritant to get the same movement. Now, that's when you start losing toleration. That's when the body start tolerating the poison. If it tolerated poison, there's not going to be any movement. So you got to use another poison to get another movement. And this is the same thing with the roller coaster. When you start tolerating the poison, or when you start tolerating the excitement, it's no longer exciting anymore. Your body loses the ability to feel threatened or get a rush from the poisonous intake or the poisonous excitement. So here it is. You have to use more. Stimulation requires more stimulation. Continued stimulation requires more continued stimulation to get the same desired effect. To get the same effect of that rush, jumping off of a seesaw is not going to be exciting as jumping off a mountaintop. Jumping out of an airplane is even more exciting than that. So to get the same stimulation, to get the same excitement, it's going to require more and more stimulation to get that same effect from the initial use. Just like we see in crack addicts, they're trying to get that first one was blew their head off, and now they need more. They're chasing that initial excitement. They're trying to get that back by using more and more and more and more until they just die, And the same thing with us. We're doing the same thing and everything. We when we eat certain foods, those foods stimulate us, stimulate our stomach, and we keep eating that stimulating food over and over until, once upon a time, we didn't need nothing but 1 cup of sugar in our tea. Now we need the whole bag in there to taste the sugar. Now that tastes sweet. It wasn't sweet when we had just that 1 cup. Now, when we begun drinking it, oh man, this is too sweet. This 1 cup of sugar. But now, we can put more sugar. The alcoholic, one drink used to get him drunk and tipsy, but now he can drink a whole bottle without getting the effects of what the one drink used to do for him. So here it is. Toleration has set in, or accommodation. The body is now accommodating the poisonous substance. It's now accommodating the ongoing stimulation till it's no longer going to react, or you get the same desired effect. So in doing so, you're going to need more stimulation. So this is where your addiction comes in. You're addicted to this thing now because you got to do it more often now. You used to drink 1 drink. Now you have to drink a little more to get the same effect of the adrenaline rush, the dopamine release. So now you're doing your ritual a little more often. You got to ride bigger and badder things. You got to eat more toxic foods. You got to drink more toxic drinks just to get the same effect. You got to indulge with more toxic poison. The medical people got to give you more toxic drugs to get the same stimulation in your kidneys to filter out water. They give you a little itty bitty diuretic at the beginning. Now you're taking 5 different forms of diuretics, water pills, high blood pressure medicine. So it's because your body is building tolerance to the poison. And that's not a good thing to build tolerance, because building tolerance is an accommodation. It's a metamorphosis. It's where your body is changing its function to deal with poisons instead of do what it was naturally designed to do. If your lungs is to tolerate air pollution, it must change its functions. It must change its character. It must change its physical nature. Its cells and tissues must redesign themselves to deal with the air pollution and not to exchange oxygen for carbon dioxide. That's what it was designed to do. Its natural structure and function is to exchange carbon for dioxide. It wasn't designed to repel cigarette smoke and cigar smoke and fragrances and air wicks and different things that we pollute our body and lungs with. So, but if we're constantly engaged in these toxic environments, then the body has to eventually change its function to harden itself to that constant irritation, that constant stimulation. You go into a house with smoke and you're coughing. You're healthy young lung. They call it young lung. But you go inside of a place with a bunch of incense, air wicks, you're sneezing and coughing, and you're like, oh God, it's toxic in here. But the other people around you who live in that environment, they're like, what do you mean? We don't smell anything. We don't smell anything, But then if you stay there and you stay there for many days and many weeks, you get to the point where you don't smell anything. And a new person come in and say, oh my God, what can y'all put out those candles and take out the air wicks? It's toxic in here. But you have lowered your constitution, your physical constitution, by constantly engaging in this toxic stimulation. So we weaken our body. So lowering your constitution is weakening your resistance. It's like a weakening to your resistance, and your body becomes sick. Your body becomes diseased because you're lowering your resistance. Your body, your response. Your body is not going to respond to have the energy to respond to intruders, toxic substances. So you're weakening your body. If your body has no power, then it can't defend itself from other habits, other lifestyle, uncleanliness, and different things of that nature. So we see ourselves going into sickness. We see ourselves going into different diseases. But that stimulation is a constant irritation. Now, irritation is the third stage of disease. The first stage of disease is enervation. All right. When enervation is when our body becomes fatigued. It's the weakness. Overstimulation causes it to become tired, weak. It's no longer want to work. If you keep working a horse and you never give him rest, every time he gets sleepy, you tell him, no, it's not time to go to sleep. You hit him across the back, tell him, keep on running. And after a while, he starts slowing down again. He want to rest. And you be like, no, get to work. And you chop him across his back again. And y'all galloping. He go back to galloping. Every time you hit him, he go back to galloping. But every time if you keep this up, you'll notice that the first time he was able to go 4 more hours without slowing down. Now you notice that it's 3 hours between every lashing, 2 hours between every lashing, 1 hour between every lashing till he fall out dead. So it seems as though his energy is becoming 50% short every time between the lashing. But if you constantly give that to him, he eventually, like I said, end up falling out dead. Now imagine we do that with our organs and tissue. Our kidneys are begging to be left alone because we have fatigued our organs, our kidneys, by constantly filtering out alcohol, filtering out soda, teas, coffees, and other unnatural drinks. We've been getting rid of excessive salts and sugars and other crystals via the kidneys. We also been wearing out our colon by excessive eating, overeating, eating in wrong combinations, eating foods that are unnatural. The digestive tract have to constantly get rid of that waste. It can't make use of it, so it constantly getting rid of it. Now, when that organ no longer have the energy to get rid of it, it just sits there and calcifies, become a source of internal poison. Same thing with the kidneys. If the kidneys can't filter the blood of its crystals, those crystals are stored in areas of the body that eventually causes damage and irritation to those organs. So that toxemia, when the body becomes low in energy, the toxins are accumulated. That's stage 2, toxemia, where the blood become toxic, the cells and tissues are toxic because the kidneys and colon is not draining the toxins from the body because they're too tired. They're too fatigued. They've been overworked, overstimulated. So now they are tired and worn out. They need rest. And so the toxins in the body tend to accumulate while they're resting. Now that accumulated toxins are inside irritating cells and tissues. that irritation causes inflammation. We start feeling pain and suffering from the irritating substances that are being stored in our body. Now, if that irritation, if those toxins are sustained for a long period of time in the body, it will damage those. That irritation would be a constant irritation to those cells and tissues, where those cells and tissue are hardened. They harden themselves to that constant irritation. They get calluses on them, because if you keep irritating and scratching here, it eventually going to become, well, we'll see an ulceration first with blood and all, and sores be there, and then eventually a big hardening, a scab appear that's protecting me from scraping it. So that hardening is a protective, but that hardening is a change in character. My hand is supposed to be soft and baby like, but if I'm constantly irritating it, it's going to have this big ugly scar on it. Now it's no longer functioning like a hand; it's functioning as a protective covering. So the whole structure of this cell is change from being baby-like to Frankenstein-like, you know. So imagine that going on inside your, if that's going on the hand, imagine that's going on inside your colon, inside your lungs, inside your liver, inside your kidneys, or any other tissue in the human body that is subjected to the poisons, the bone, the joint areas, all that arthritis, itis, inflammation going on in those areas because of constant stimulation or irritation from the poisons that we are allowing to accumulate in our body. Now, when we go to the doctor, when we first get to this point, see, we don't get to that point. It's hard to get to that stage, what I'm talking about there. But if you constantly going to the doctor, let's rewind. If you're constantly going to the doctor and you complaining that, okay, I got a bunch of fluid on my body, I got a bunch of I can't have a bowel movement, I'm having problems with bowel movement, and he's constantly giving you laxative, he constantly giving you diuretic,